we can go right to questions, and we have a lot of them, and there's a lot of things happening in wrestling that people want to hear what you want to say about. Did that make any sense? I don't know. However, I will move on, and I will continue with what I was saying, and I will say that the other option is, if you wanted to, we could play a little guest the program. I don't know if you think we've done it too much, because we did it on both shows last week.
I'm having a ball doing it.
So you want to do it?
So I think we should do a little bit more of it.
This first one here, I just got, and I want to thank the person in a moment, but first let me go to the card, see if you can guess this. The opening match, Enrique Torres versus Mike Paducas. The second match, Billy Two Rivers versus Rocco Perez.
Ooh.
The third match, tag team match, as it says here, 4 colored girls, Ethel Johnson and Betty White versus Babs Swingo.
No, it's Babs Wingo. They put an extra S in.
Oh, it says Babs Swingo.
Yeah, it's Babs Wingo. She was sisters with Ethel Johnson.
And Marva Scott. The next match, another tag team match, George Becker, who seems to always be on these shows, and Mike Clancy versus Al and John Smith. 2 more matches, Paul Anderson versus Hans Schnabel. And the main event... Schnabel. The main event, The Great Bolo versus Larry Crusher Hamilton.
We are in the mid-50s, and it almost seems like we would have to be in the Carolinas or somewhere on the East Coast. And God damn. I'm just going to go with 1953 in either the state of North Carolina or Virginia.
The date, January 26th, 1959.
Oh!
The Charlotte Coliseum.
Okay.
Promoter Jim Crockett. And I want to give a special thanks to a friend of mine who I owe a phone call to, Frank the Collector.
Oh.
Who notified me about this, and I immediately swooped in and purchased it. It's a series of 3 programs from 59. This one is autographed by George Becker, Ethel Johnson, Big Bill Ward, Enrique Torres, the Smiths. Yeah, Paul Anderson.
Alan John Smith, they were bearded. They had the gimmick from the Smith Brothers cough drops. The reason why I got the year all wrong is I would have sworn that the girls' tag match would have been earlier. That's what threw me off to the early 50s, because I didn't know they were still working in that combination that late.
Well, speaking of earlier, let's go a bit earlier with this next one. On the cover of the program, coming back next week, Jumping Joe Savaldi.
How can we miss you if you won't go away?
The card, the first bout, Kay Bell versus George Becker, again. Kay Bell is filling in for General O'Brien, who was not there. The second bout, and now I never know how to pronounce this guy's name. Hopefully you do. King Kong Kashi?
Yeah, Abe King Kong Kashi.
Kashi, there's so much stuff of him floating around. Versus Paul Bosch, who is filling in for Sergeant Johnny O'Brien, who also no-showed. 2 O'Briens no-showed. Then, Big Ben Morgan, who's filling in for Kila Shikuma from Japan, who I'm not familiar with, versus Tom Zaharias. 2 final matches, semifinal.
Wait a minute. Tom. There was George and there was Chris. I don't remember Tom.
This is Tom Zaharias. The semifinal, 2 out of 3 falls.
Of course, it's like George Liberace.
2 out of 3 falls. Ivan Rasputin versus Sandar Szabo. And the main event, Bronco Nagurski versus Public Enemy. Who it says here in the handwriting, because all the results and times are marked in here, it says Frank Cutler change his name every so often. So that's Public Enemy, apparently.
My God, this is definitely during the World War II years. Would that be?
I'll give you a heads up. No, this is not during the World War II years.
It is immediately afterwards.
No, that's wrong too.
What? It's not before World War II.
It is indeed before World War II.
It is indeed before World War II. Son of a bitch, is it in the Northeast?
It is not.
Okay.
Now, why did you think Northeast? Was it Bosch?
Well, I was thinking Bosch, because Becker also worked. George Becker worked the Carolinas. He was the top babyface and later on the Booker for 30 years, from the 40s through the 70s. But he worked a lot in New York at that time. Hearing Bosch, knew he worked there. Nagurski could have been anywhere because he was a big name. Sandor Szabo was a big name as well. The rest, goddamn, okay. Then fuck it. I'm going to stay out of the Northeast, and I'm going to say that this was in 1939, and this was in California or Texas.
The date, Wednesday, May 25th, 1938.
Ooh.
Portland Auditorium.
Son of a gun. Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
All right. I bombed on that one completely.
And the girls are coming. Joe Savoldi on the front cover of the back says the girls are coming.
The girls are coming.
For more than 2 years, we have been trying to get the Portland Boxing Commission and the City Commission to place an okay on a championship wrestling bout between Clara Mortensen, World Lady Champion, and one of the 3 contenders for the title available at Hollywood. But it's always been thumbs down. Once we had a petition with 2,200 names on it asking that girls be allowed to wrestle in Portland. But no go. However, Portland Mat fans are finally going to get a chance to see this fine girl athlete, Miss Mortensen, in action. Her Portland date is June 8th, and the bout will positively be held, and it won't be a private exhibition either. The location of the bout, the time, and the contestants will be announced within the next 10 days. And now this is all in caps. But I'll guarantee one thing, the girls will appear here. And apparently, listen to this, Clara Mortensen drew 8,000 fans in Seattle the last time she wrestled there. She drew 7,000 fans in Vancouver. In Los Angeles, she sold out the Hollywood Stadium and the Olympic Auditorium. And at San Francisco, she drew 10,000 people. Her hometown is Portland, and then it goes on a little bit about her, but
she was the world women's champion directly before Mildred Burke. And it was a spotty situation where, she wasn't being booked on a regular basis all over the country because it was still on a case where she could actually legally appear, and etc. But the answer to the trivia question, was there a famous girl wrestler before Mildred Burke? The answer is yes, Clara Mortensen.
All right, Jim, this next one could be a little tricky, or you could get it right away.
Oh, boy.
The opening match, Joe Scarpa versus Evan Marion. The second match, Pedro Godoy versus Judo Jack Terry. The third bout, Eduardo and Louis Martinez versus Tojo Yamamoto and Taro Miyake.
Taro Miyake.
And finally, the main event, 2 out of 3 falls, 1 hour time limit. Kurt and Carl von Bronner versus Haystacks Calhoun and Dickie Steinborn.
We are in the Goulas territory, aren't we? Or are we in Georgia?
No and no.
No? God damn it.
And
all
no.
Right. Then could we be in Florida?
Yes, I was actually about to say, technically, Goulas did have a different territory at one point, or an expanded territory, and it was Florida.
This would have been in the era of 1961 through 5, I betcha. And I'm going to say Tampa 1962.
The date, Friday, January 19th, 1962.
Oh!
Miami Beach.
Ah! All right. 200 miles off.
200 miles off. This next one is really tricky, I think, but you may get it right away.
You keep saying that.
Now, this one, listen to this card. The opening bout, Mario Galento versus Ivan Robert. The second event, The Great Malenko and John Smith versus Tom Drake and Don Fields. The main event, 1 hour time limit, Billy Wicks versus Sputnik Monroe.
Well, see, now you throw me off because I was about to say Birmingham, but now I want to bring it back to Memphis. You dastardly villain, but that's not a Memphis card. Maybe not. What?
I did say it could be a bit tricky. I didn't think this would be just an obvious. I'm not going to just give you an obvious one like that.
Yeah. It's not Memphis, but one would think because Billy Wicks and Sputnik Monroe is the main event, it would be. That's the trick. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm going to say 1959 or 1960.
Mobile, Alabama.
Son of a bitch.
Ladd Stadium. Wednesday, July 9th, 1958.
Okay.
So a year before everything in Memphis.
Sputnik was in Alabama the year before he was in Memphis. So I got the state, didn't get the city, and I was a year off on the year.
That's right. That is correct.
One more.
Let me
one more chance.
Let me see if this one has a lineup in it, this program. Okay. The opening match, Jim Grabmeyer versus Carl Campbell. The second match, Johnny Berend versus Ali Pasha. The third match, Oscar Verdu, of course, Crusher Verdu, versus Bearcat Wright. And the main event, the Iron Russians versus Nature Boy Rogers and Sweet Daddy Siki, 2 falls to win.
We're in... The year is going to be 1961, 61. I'm not taking my finger off the checker yet. And it's going to be in the Great Lakes region.
Let me just say, I don't have, now that I look, an exact date other than the month and the year. I don't have the actual date.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get fucking March 31st or whatever, but let's go with 1961 in Western New York State.
August 1959. Bobby Davis presents All-Star Wrestling, the Fairgrounds Coliseum, Marion, Ohio.
Son of a bitch. Okay, when Bobby Davis got the opportunity to be a promoter around the Columbus area and the state of Ohio, and Rogers was helping him. And that explains Johnny Berend, and that explains Rogers, and Siki and Bearcat Wright was just around at the time, but it was a spot show, which is why there's only 4 matches. And who are the Iron Russians?
I'm going to look through the program here. There's a couple masked figures on the back. Here's Bearcat Wright. That's a disturbing photo. I don't know who this is. This must be Ali Pasha. I do not see anything. Don Lewin has returned to our area after a long absence, as also Johnny Berend. That's a weird way of putting it. Next Saturday, August 15th, is the biggest wrestling show at the Fairgrounds Coliseum in Marion, Ohio. Nature Boy Rogers, yeah, that's building up this one actually right here. This is an issue of Buckeye News, Buckeye Matt News. And that's guess the program.
Bobby Fulton is from right down the road in Chillicothe, Ohio, and it's a Buckeye state. The Ohio thing is the Buckeyes, right? And Bobby Fulton, when I had a issue a couple of years ago with hemorrhoids, Bobby Fulton said, now this will work, Jimmy. He gave me a Buckeye. And he said, this will take care of your hemorrhoids. I said, you mean I have to shove that thing up my ass? And he said, no, you just carry it in your bag, and it's like a lucky charm. And son of a gun, I've had no more issues since I got that lucky Buckeye. Once I figured out how to get it out of my ass before I talked to Bobby, but after that, I've had no more issues.
Well, speaking of issues, some people may have heard your performance and guessed the program today and thought, I thought this man's supposed to know wrestling history. I thought this man's a wrestling historian. I've been duped. I've been conned.
Hornswoggled, swindled, bamboozled, flim-flammed even.
That's
I'm
right.
Just helping you there.
I didn't know you were going to stop. I thought you were going to keep going.
Yeah. I can.
Perhaps they've been listening under false pretenses. And they want action.
They've been led down the primrose path and misrepresented and lied to, and now they need some relief from somebody. Well, I know the man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, folks, I would have built that up even longer, but you knew where I was going, so we just got right to it. Folks, Stephen P. New, the man for you, the consigliere of the cult of Cornette, is the man that you need to turn to if you have any legal ramifications or perspicacity that you need taken care of. Just look that word up. It doesn't have any resemblance to the way I just used it. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084 is the man to turn to when you need compensation, when you need some relief. Just shoot up here amongst us, because one of us needs some relief. And I'll tell you what, not only has he gotten millions of dollars in these settlements, the Veterans Administration Hospital where the doctor sexually abused his patients, or the city of Minden, West Virginia, where the groundwater was poisoned by deadly chemicals, or with the 3M earplugs, that the defective earplugs that our service members were given. But those are big multi-million-dollar lawsuits. But this is the kind of guy Stephen P. New is. He's flying around on a jet plane. He's doing multi-million-dollar settlements. But the happiest that he was made this past week or two by a new judgment was only for $50,000 for his client, but it meant more to him than all these other ones, because this was a nice old lady that was involved in an accident through no fault of her own, had like $7,000 in doctor bills, and State Farm, who was not a good neighbor, took phony information from somebody else and would not give this lady her compensation. And Stephen P. New took over the case from her previous attorney and didn't just get her $7,000, got her $50,000 for her time and suffering and effort and being bothered with all of that. So whether it's if you think nobody owes me $16 million, but by God, somebody owes me 50 grand, you can still call on Stephen P. New. And he's also the title sponsor of the big event at the Raleigh County Civic Center in Beckley, West Virginia this August, the Bash in Beckley. And newlawoffice.com is an official sponsor there also. So anyway, Stephen P. New is the man for you. 1-888, not even the one, just 888-692-8084, newlawoffice.com. Go on the website and look at all the various cases they've handled. They're getting more people paid than Las Vegas these days.